Live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining us. We are live streaming here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. This is something we do every weekday. You may already know that. In case you don't, I always like to remind everybody. And one of the best ways to watch this is by downloading that Fox 12 Oregon app. And we cover a wide range of topics on here, but something that, happens every now and then is something to do with cougars here in the Northwest. And you probably saw the story coming out of the state of Washington with a child who was actually bit by a cougar. The child's okay. The cougar was put down, but it's a good time to just remind ourselves that we do live in the Northwest. There are actual wild animals out there, and just to know what to do about that, what to know about cougars there, and if you should encounter one, what the steps are that you should take. So we wanted to talk about that today. Joining us from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, we have Michelle Dennehy. And Michelle, great to have you on here, as always. And, I think it's a good yearly reminder for everybody to think about this, and just be aware. I like going out in the woods. I like camping, and getting out in the nature, as most people do. But every now and then, something like this can happen.
Yes, so the cougar population has grown in Oregon in the decades since the 1960s. And of course, the human population has grown. So there's more likelihood, yes, that there could be an encounter. And the thing to know about cougars is they're very territorial. So, sometimes we see cougars being pushed into kind of urban fringe habitat because their instinct is to try to get, make a home range for themselves. But, there could be other cougars in the more suitable habitat. So, it is rare. We're very relieved to hear that that child in Washington is okay. It is rare, but it does happen. So it's great to get the word out about how to be prepared and maybe how to, even though the risk is low, how to lower that risk further.
Yeah, just in case that does happen, because, as you mentioned, the population, I think that's a good point. Population of cougars has increased, and more people out in the wilderness. So inevitably, that could happen, some kind of encounter. So for people who are going out into I guess that's possible in an urban environment as well if you have somebody coming in there. But what are some of the most important things that people should know about cougars when they're heading out?
Sure. So, some steps that you can take, again, to lower your low risk is to hike in groups. I think that's a good one. Also, make noise as you go. Because in general, generally they're going to want to avoid you, but they need to know that you're there. So make noise as you go. You should stay alert. It's not, particularly if you're alone, you should not be hiking around with your headphones on and not kind of aware of your surroundings. Another piece of advice, which we always offer, and which is helpful for bears, for coyotes, is keep your dogs on a leash. Because what we sometimes see when we have conflict is we see, a dog that's kind of ahead of everyone, and it maybe startles a bear or a cougar, and then it brings the problem back to you. So it's better to keep your dog on a leash in those situations. And of course, some places have those rules on the books. But even if they don't, good idea to keep them on a leash. And then, even though it's called bear spray, it works for cougars, it works for others, for other predators. So recommend you carry bear spray and know how to use it. So make sure you read those directions before you go out there, or, carry an air horn. That's another good tool to have.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I didn't even think about that the dog could bring the problem back to you. That is definitely something my dog would do.
We do see that.
That's he's on a leash, but yeah. So that's all of that's some really great advice, and not using headphones, being aware of your environment. I feel like there's probably a lot of people that don't follow that one.
Yes, we all want to zone out sometimes, but ideally you don't do that when you're hiking around in the outdoors.
Yeah. So good things to think about there. Now, should that happen, that encounter happen, you mentioned an air horn, bear spray, a couple of options, but, when encounters do happen, what is the most frequent kind of encounter, or what are the different kinds of encounters that people could have?
So sometimes we'll hear about stalking, whereas the cougar doesn't leave. It's kind of standing around watching you. Sometimes we hear teeth popping, snarling, false charging. Of course, that gets into even more risky behavior. So, when that does happen, I think, some key things are to stay calm. And a really key one is don't run. because you don't want to trigger the cougar's chase instinct. So you don't want to run. Basically, you want to look like you would be tough to take down, quite frankly. So you want to look big. You want to, shout, raise your arms. If you have children, kind of get your children with you, but maybe don't crouch to pick them up. Like you want to look large. And so the cougar, doesn't think that you're prey. If in the unlikely situation where you are actually attacked, again, extremely rare, fight back. And of course you would fight back, as this father did and this family did in Washington. But yeah, so that's kind of the general advice. And another good thing to do is don't feed wildlife. Like sometimes when we have conflict with cougars in neighborhoods where they're maybe near the forest, maybe someone's feeding deer or elk in the area. We see it more with deer, so that's a good thing too, because obviously where their prey are, cougars will be. So think about that, and just in general, actually all the time, don't feed wildlife.
Yeah, not feeding wildlife. That is a very good point. Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, so really important things there to be aware of, and just it's good knowledge to know, even if the chances may be slim. It's better to know. And I want to pull this up here too. This is one of the flyers that you sent me that I believe is probably on the ODFW website, and it'll be here as part of this video. But yeah, just going through some of those same exact examples. So appearing large, and now for people with kids, like in this instance. So if you are walking with your child, you mentioned don't bend down to pick the child up, so that you...
Yeah, if possible, you want to stay large and just kind of keep your kids close.
Okay.
When you're hiking, hike together, hike in a group, as the advice says. And just in general, you want to make yourself big, not small. That's the key point. And another thing is, if you're in a neighborhood where there could be cougar activity, you also want to feed your pets inside and keep your pets indoors at night, because that's another time that we see cougars killing pets when they're out at night. So that's another good piece of advice if you're lucky enough to live in that kind of area.
Yeah, where you could have that kind of encounter. I agree. But yeah, don't leave that food out overnight. That is definitely something that could attract all kinds of problems, exactly. I'm sure. Great. Well, this is all really good advice just for people to know. So again, keep this in mind when you're out there, and some of those things that you just mentioned. I'm like, okay, yeah, I do hike with my headphones in sometimes, and maybe I shouldn't be doing that. So good reminder not to do that. Anything else that you think is important for people to know?
No, just that if you have that kind of encounter, when you get and you're in cell phone range, you want to say you're hiking on a national forest, you can let them know, let ODFW know, and if it's an emergency, call 911. Okay.
So if you do have like a close encounter with one, you should call ODFW and let you know?
Yes, and let us know, or maybe for example, if you're on the national forest, let them know, because there are steps we take. For example, we put those signs out just because we want to alert people that there could be a cougar in the area and just remind them to take these steps.
Yeah, good advice. Okay, so ways that people can help out and help warn others. Well, Michelle, thank you, as always. I appreciate your time coming here.
Yeah, thank you for your interest. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good education. Thanks a lot. And for everybody who's watching, again, we are live streaming here, so these are these longer form segments that we get to have, and I appreciate you joining us. You can watch these on the Fox 12 Oregon app, KPTV.com, or even our YouTube channel, so plenty of different options there for you to find this. We've got more coming up. I'll be back in about just a few minutes, actually. I'll be back at 1:30, and we'll be covering something else there. I think I'm talking about the Portland Art Museum, but if there's ever breaking news between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m., this is also the place to go. All right, I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.